Music from Terry Jacks, Seasons in the Sun on Lake 88.1 at 12 minutes after 8 o'clock. And it's Adam Weeks in on your holiday Monday. Joining me in studio, an old friend of mine and someone that a lot of people would probably know from around this area, Kurt Spruill, synonymous with songwriting, guitar playing, especially before his departure for Kingston. Kurt, nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's true that until you left this area, you were well known around here for always being involved in music, always being involved in groups. There were some local bands, Beautiful Inferno.
Yes. Which, that was my baby.
Your baby, yeah. Great group, and lots of performances around the area. And anyone circa those years, PDCI, would definitely remember all the performances while you were going through high school, and then eventually you took off for greener pastures.
Yeah, I've been in Kingston now for, it'll be 11 years.
11 years.
This November.
Wow. Yeah. That's a while now. I didn't realize it was that long. Mm-hmm. And in that time, you've had the chance to play with a number of musicians and play a lot of gigs in a lot of different groups, things like that. Give us a little bit of the story of what's happened in 11 years musically for you.
Well, when I first moved there, Beautiful Inferno was a project that Mike Brown, Andrew Title, and I started in Perth.
Not the swimmer Mike Brown, the other one.
The other Mike Brown.
The other Mike
Not
Brown.
The Olympic swimmer.
Right.
No. The other one. But, yeah, once we all kind of reconvened in Kingston, we decided to start a band again. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of slow at first. You know, we were an unproven band in an unfamiliar city, right? So it took a while to establish those connections. And, once those doors are open, it's not really a concern. It's not an issue anymore, right, to start getting shows.
It's a pretty strong musical community, is that right,
absolutely.
up in Kingston?
Yes, and very
down in Kingston.
Yep, and very diverse. And, it's a great arts community. Then, we performed, we gigged regularly, almost too much. And that was one of the issues we ended up having, right? Creative differences as well as, career ambitions, I've never been much of a careerist when it comes to music.
It's just something that's natural to you, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's right.
It's part of life, and you wouldn't have it any other way.
I don't concern myself too much with the business aspects,
That's
I'd rather just focus on, the creative aspects.
I think that makes for better music.
Yep. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So after a few different groups, you ended up in the current project, which is called Some Giant.
Some Giant, yes.
And you and the other members of the band have all been in a few of the other bands in the Kingston area. Where do the other guys come from?
Our singer, Sean, he was in this wonderful psychedelic funk band called Shishlang. And when I was with this, I used to be in an experimental metal band called Terrestrial, and we used to gig with them fairly frequently. And I always just admired his voice, just the sincerity, the power, just he can really project. But I enjoyed that band very much so. But I always wondered, what would he sound like with a more aggressive, say, 90s alternative grunge influence kind of band?
Okay.
And, I found an opportunity. Him and I collaborated together. I do recording projects, collaborative kind of efforts. And he was involved in one of them. And we were both really satisfied with, the production value we achieved and the song itself. So one night I ran into him at the mansion, and naturally it kind of came up in the conversation, what are you up to now? Are you playing with anyone? And I told him about the project that I'd started with the other guys in Some Giant. It was just in its infancy then. And he expressed interest, invited him to a rehearsal, which wasn't really an audition. I knew that I wanted him to be the singer, right?
You're already...
Yep. And our drummer from Some Giant, Martin Piper, him and I used to be in a band called Fossils and Gospels.
Okay.
Previously with fellow Perth native Mike Brown.
Okay. Not the swimmer.
Not the swimmer, no.
And you guys have a 6-song EP that you put together.
Yes, sir.
That was June 12th that came out. Mm-hmm. And this is available, so anyone that wants to get their hands on it, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Napster. Napster?
Yeah, Napster still exists.
That. Don't use Napster. Don't use Napster. I didn't even know it was out there. And you've got a live album is not quite out yet, right? The 17th of this month, we'll have that one, the live album.
September 17th is the target date that will mark our 1-year anniversary as a band.
And you've done a whole bunch of shows, as you mentioned, almost too many in the early days. And some of these recently include the annual Homegrown Festival in Kingston, a sold-out show at Queen's University campus. That's a great thing to be able to say. You sold the place out.
It was a fundraiser for autism awareness. So we were really proud to be involved with that cause. Yeah,
very good, very good. And a whole bunch of other things. This event here, tell me about this. The Roswell rehearsals.
Right. Yes, Well, when we played Kingston's annual Homegrown Festival, we weren't aware of it, but our set was being recorded.
Okay.
And a couple weeks later, the audio was sent to us, and we were really satisfied with, not only the performance quality, but the production value. So we decided, well, let's attempt that again, but in a more controlled environment, a venue of our choosing with an audience that we personally handpick. So we thought Roswell Rehearsals would be an ideal setting for that to happen, and, they're the production team behind the Homegrown performance as well.
Okay.
So tomorrow night, actually, we're doing the second and hopefully final mixing and editing session for the live album. It'll be 9 original songs. And
from the Roswell Rehearsals.
From Roswell Rehearsals, plus a cover of I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges.
Okay.
And we haven't decided yet, but we may include some of the recordings from the Homegrown performance as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Yes.
And again, that comes out on the 17th. The band is Some Giant. We're talking to Kurt Spruill, guitar player and songwriter. And Kurt, we've got a tune lined up, but before we get to it, I want you to tell me what's next for Some Giant. Where are you guys headed right now?
What we aspire to do is, try to limit our local activity, because mostly, other than the exception of a show in Ottawa recently, we've been just playing in Kingston. So that's kind of what we aspire to do. What we hope to do in the future is start playing out of town more. Be more selective. So when we do play in Kingston, it becomes more an event, right?
Yeah, you kind of like great, they're back.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Right.
If you're playing too much, people, it's not that they lose some interest, right? Because they're like, well, if I don't see you this week, I saw you last week, or I could go see you the week after.
There's only so many Star Wars movies you can go to in a year, right?
That is true.
All right, Kurt. Well, that's great. We hope to hear more from you and more from Some Giant. Again, check this out online. Pick up the albums. Pick up the new live album that's coming out. And it's great to have you back. This is your hometown, is that right?
This is my hometown.
Born and bred in Perth.
That is correct.
I'm glad that you were able to stop through and chat with us on your way.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Great to have you, Kurt. Kurt Spruill from Some Giant out of Kingston. Look for them touring, and grab their live album coming out on the 17th. This is a song called Abandoned. Thanks a lot, Kurt.
Thank you.